Hello there. It's me, Dave LaMont, back from vacation and ready to start noonering up again. That's a new word. And happy that you could take some time. I've had some pretty decent sized audiences for this little, very modest, totally low budget program. So I appreciate all of that attention. I really do. And throw your comments in anytime. Just a few things. I will talk a little bit about the vacation because I just kind of want to, and it is on my mind. But it was funny because I think it was this morning, maybe it was last night. I said, what am I going to talk about today? I don't want to just do 20 minutes on a vacation. That's interesting to me, but maybe not that interesting to you. But I will do a few minutes on it. And I thought about, there's a couple of things of interest to me besides that. And one of them is stuff happened while I was gone, of course. Maybe the biggest one being the USC-UCLA move to the Big Ten in 2024. Look, college sports is no longer about traditions or rivalries or anything. And it has been about money and deep amounts of money for some time. We just probably chose to ignore it. But with the television money that's being thrown at these conferences, to where conferences have networks, University of Texas has a network that's been around for a while now. The Pac-12 sort of had a network, and so on and so on and so on. It is increasingly obvious that the only thing that matters over everything else is how much money can be made. Now, the players are starting to see some of this from different deals. And while I admit it's a little greasy to me, I understand it. And at least it's above board. You know, all the stuff about, well, we're not cheating, we don't pay our players. And then you wonder how they get the same people over and over again, all these incredible commits, and many of them turn out to be great players. And, I understand. We all kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. The NCAA can investigate every team in college football, or at least every big team, right? So we all kind of, hey, my team's good, my team's terrible, my team is building, my team should be better, all the usual sports radio and blog and internet conversations. So in a way, what's been happening with Texas and Oklahoma splitting the SEC, this happening, other moves expected to happen, are we headed to these massive conferences and completely destroy the sport for the many other teams? Oh, hi, Clyde. Yep. Well, hey, you never know. Remember, it's an animal-friendly house around here. Yeah, we're destroying the sport for a lot of schools. I think of my friends at FAU who won't ever be big time. They just can't be. You look at places like FIU, same thing. They're barely alive at this point. Western Michigan, where my son went, they're never going to be a big time program. They're going to, not that they were ever going to be in the MAC and some of these other schools, but these conferences are going to be now really low on the food chain. And part of me wishes you would support them in some way, whether you watch them on television, you maybe pick a favorite team, just sort of keep up with them in addition to this race for the cash that's going on right now with the facilities upgrades that are required everywhere and the payoffs and the NILs. It's getting a little harder to enjoy it. Now, I'm not saying I don't. Of course, I'm a college football person, but some of the enjoyment isn't quite there. And it has nothing to do with whatever my school, in this case, University of Miami, is up to, which at least on the recruiting trail has been rather good. But again, you know how I feel about that. It doesn't really matter until we start to actually play. And all of these latest recruiting victories for the schools, Florida's picked up a few too, don't mean anything because they're still in high school. They can decommit at any time until they show up. So there's just a sourness to this. And believe me, I know that it's been about money for a while. It's easy to understand that. The money that's thrown out there by CBS and Fox and ESPN and NBC, to the extent where they have Notre Dame, is massive. And the long-term deals to make sure that the SEC stays with ESPN, and now they're taking over the CBS time slot. And, I understand. But the idea, I still cling to traditions, and they're being, just swept away. But no more Texas A&M, West Virginia, Pitt. God knows the last time those teams have played. You just don't have these kinds of things. And then you wonder, well, what's going to happen to the ACC? What's going to happen to UM and Florida State? Miami has bounced around. I mean, they've been in the Big East, and then they've been to the ACC, and then who knows what's going to happen with them next. It's hard to build some of the stuff that we've gotten used to, like traditions, when you're constantly moving around. On the other hand, if somebody offers you a ridiculous check and an opportunity to continue to make more money through television deals, how do you say no to that? How do you're funding your whole athletic department, not just your football program. So the sports that are going to be most affected by this are the ones that are the smaller, lower revenue sports, who now are going to have to come up with some kind of money to deal with the extra travel. I can't imagine, let's just say, a swim program from Rutgers, how much it would cost them to head out to UCLA for a meet. These are the schools that don't have this. Even these programs that are somewhat prominent in college swimming, just use them for example, or baseball, don't have that kind of budgets, but they're going to have to come up with it. And where's that come from? Well, ideally, some revenue sharing in the department from these remarkable television deals. So this is where we're going. I don't particularly like it, but I can't stop it. And you can't either. And why would we try? And you know what? I think ultimately all anyone's going to truly care about is whether their team is any good. I guarantee you that. At first, it's a shock. And at first, if you look at it, you go, well, they're just going to tear this thing down, maybe to rebuild it again, but I don't know how. But all we really care about is my team any good. That's it. If you root for a team, no matter what they've gone through, whether they're terrible, they're in the middle, perpetually in the middle, it's a big school, a small school, whatever. If you're happy, that's all that's going to matter. And whether your team ends up in a different conference and has new opponents that you're not very familiar with, you don't care. Did we win? Good. Okay, great. Don't fire the coach this week. That's what it always comes down to. The other thing that I was thinking about talking, and then I found an article on The Athletic that cemented my decision to talk about it, is, and I don't really talk much about tennis because I admit I don't follow it as closely as I used to. But the idea with Djokovic winning Wimbledon, now you've just got the U.S. Open where he is likely not to be allowed to play because he's unvaccinated. And that's not the debate I'm going to have with you here because I don't set the rules on that stuff. We got another cat about to make an appearance. This is Bonnie of the two. You saw Clyde earlier. Is who's going to be the greatest tennis player of all time? Who wins that debate? And, you got Federer kind of sidelined now, only 20 majors. Nadal, 21? And Djokovic could end up in the mid-20s because who's going to beat him? Except maybe Nadal, if Nadal is in one piece. Now, Nadal's got 15 of his titles on one surface. I don't know if that validates or doesn't validate his argument to be the best ever. And Djokovic is kind of an unlikable guy, at least to me. But that shouldn't enter into it either. So I think it's going to be Djokovic when it's all said and done because I don't see anybody stopping him. He's obviously takes good care of himself. He's in his 30s. That's not a death sentence in sports like it was 30 or 40 years ago. And it used to be, oh, my God, he's 30. Holy crap, cut him. Well, we know better than that now. So he won't necessarily be a joyful march to being the greatest of all time. But if we're using majors as a measuring stick, there you go. The thing that I'm concerned about a little bit is this. I can't figure out whether this is a lack of depth in men's tennis to where one person or maybe two can utterly dominate, or is it that they are so great that they make everybody else seem irrelevant? We kind of went through that with Tiger when he was at his peak. When he was blowing people out by 8, 10, 15 shots, he won a major championship by. Was it because the field sucked, or was it because his greatness was so great that nobody could touch him? It's usually a combination of both. Now, if you win a golf tournament, a major championship, which is designed to be difficult by 15 shots or 8 shots or whatever, that's you. That's not the field being terrible. That's you being awesome. So is that the same thing with Djokovic winning all of these major championships? Is it just because he's better and no matter who you throw up there, it doesn't matter? It's a fun debate to have, and I'm leaning toward the player just being that much better than the competition is weak. That's where I'm going with this, because there's so many things that can happen. you can get hurt. Like Nadal couldn't finish Wimbledon, and would have been great to have a Nadal Djokovic final, but we didn't. And you wonder, that's a what if, but I have to think that I give the edge to the player more than the competition, because there's still a boatload of great tennis players out there, maybe people I don't even know that are great tennis players. And I am starting to have that problem. When we were in Ireland, we had the BBC on occasionally in a hotel room when we were just sitting around, and I'd watch and I go, okay, I'd please put a name up here because I don't recognize this person. So, and same for the women's side too, for the most part. So yeah, that's on me not paying enough attention to the sport, but that doesn't mean they aren't great players because I don't know who they are or I'm not very familiar with the name. I just think my meter on that goes toward greatness of player over weakness of field. So not a very exciting debate as far as if you look at it that way. But I think if Djokovic gets into the mid-20s, and why couldn't he, then, I mean, if he played the U.S. Open, and if he somehow gets into the U.S. Open, which I don't think he's going to, he's the favorite. He's going to be the favorite in every major except France for the next 3 years, probably, unless something happens to him, if he gets hurt or he loses interest. So I think the debate will be settled in his favor. And then eventually, I guess somebody can come along and maybe get to 30 majors. I don't know who that's going to be, because I don't know how many other people are going to continue to have that kind of grindy lifestyle in their mid-30s. The effort it takes to continue to play top-flight tennis is remarkable. The travel. Yes, I know. I'm sure Djokovic doesn't exactly putter around waiting in 4-hour delays in airports. But nevertheless, it's exhausting to be that good. Speaking of being that good, before I go into a little bit about the trip, I have to take my hat off. He finished everything up yesterday. It was in professional bowling, and that's, of course, the great Norm Duke. A man of the people, without question, easily one of the 5 most popular bowlers of all time. A winner starting as a young man into his 50s. I've had the opportunity to announce a bunch of Norm's events. Always found him to be a very personable person. That's redundant, but you know what I mean. And his decision to walk away, and I mean completely walk away. We're not going to see Norm pop up at a PBA 50 or 60 event. I wonder if he just had enough of the lifestyle. It's not a terribly glamorous lifestyle either. No private jets, nothing like that. A lot of bowlers drive great long distances to get to events because they bring so many bowling balls along that it would cost them a fortune to check them on airlines. So unless you are one of the guys who's made a lot of money or you have a lot of miles, and some people do, then you drive to these events. And some guys drive literally cross country to these events just because it's less expensive. The bowling the money has gotten better, but not for everybody. And it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. So it is, if you're not good, even if you have sponsorship money behind you, prominent equipment company, shoe company, grips, whatever, it's still not easy. You are paying all of your own expenses for the most part. So maybe Norm just said, you know what? I'm 57. I've about had it. He told me a year ago, he said, everything hurts these days. Maybe he just feels beat up. Maybe he wants to do something else with his life. He clearly wants to do something else with his life. But his impact on the sport will be great. He's going to be considered one of the probably 5 to 6 greatest players of all time. Walter Ray, Pete, Earl Anthony, Mark Roth, and whomever else, Belmo, obviously, and anybody else you want to throw in there, or of a young player like a Kyle Troup, EJ Tackett, who are still years away from retirement, will be considered in that group too. And then you have, you go to the older time, the Dick Webbers and the Don Carters and people who helped build the sport. It's another fun debate to have. But a hats off to Norm Duke. Always loved, as Randy calls him, the wee Iceman, and his intensity and love for the game. Speaking of love, a lot to love about Northern Ireland and Ireland. Absolutely stunning, completely different places. Cat hair, sorry. Northern Ireland, we were up north, Game of Thrones country. Never watched the show, so it's not why I was up there. I was up there to play bad golf, and I played bad golf on gorgeous courses. Very, very, very lucky to be able to do that. Haven't been out of the country except for one night in Vancouver in like 14 years, so it was wonderful to do that again. And hopefully, if everything goes right with life, we'll be able to go again, whether to play or not to play. But it's up there. Sheep and cows, man. Sheep and cows, I should say. An incredible green countryside everywhere. And everywhere you are in Ireland, practically you're on the coast, except if you're in the middle. And so we spent a lot of time on the North Coast. Belfast was a cool city. Don't go to Belfast on a Sunday, though. It really shuts down early, which we found out the hard way. But still, cool. The Titanic Museum, 8 thumbs up. I can't even give you enough thumbs up. I don't know if I've been to a more complete museum in my life than the Titanic Museum at Belfast. Unbelievable presentation by the folks there. And then off to Dublin, which my wife and I fell in love with almost immediately. A really lively, bustling city. Lots to do. Could easily go back and spend a few more days there because of the different places to visit. And, of course, maybe sneak in around a golf. I go to this golf course, the least famous of the 3 I played, called the Island Golf Club, which speaks for itself as to where it is. You're hard by the water, of course. And I get out of the car park. That's right. And drop my clubs off, and I go to check in, and the younger guy back there is just distracted. I go, hi. I said, sir, I'm sorry. Dustin Johnson, Harold Varner, and Shane Lowry are here. Do you mind if I go outside and watch? Yeah, I'll go with you. So there they were. Johnson, who's one of those live guys, and Varner, and Lowry, who is a past Open champion and is Northern Irish. And they're out there just goofing off. They're having a fun round. It's a day off for them. So what do golfers do on their day off? They play golf. And only this time for fun and a few dollars. But I hear they were talking money over on the first tee. Then they teed off, and off they went. And the rest of us teed off about an hour later. And never have I lost so many golf balls. I didn't have a caddy. It was weird. They ran out of caddies. So I was literally on my own. I had no one to play with except me. And so anytime you hit a ball wild over there, and I wildly, pardon me, and I do, it's gone. I mean, you climb up hills, and all of a sudden you look up, and you're stumbling a little bit, and it's all heather and thick stuff. And you go, why am I up here? Just drop a ball down there. You get up to the top of these hills, and you're like 40 feet in the air, and you go, wait, I got to get down from here. There's no ladders. There's no steps. Although some of the bunkers over there, and the same thing in Scotland, are so steep that they do have steps. That's what you're dealing with over there. Blind shots, but God almighty, is it beautiful. So I cannot recommend it enough. Even if you're not a golfer, you will find things to do, I promise. That includes drinking. And yes, the Guinness does taste better over there. We took the factory tour. You got to do that too. And you don't have to have a Guinness at the end. I think they had other variety, but they had a bar at the top of the building where you could overlook parts of Dublin, and you got a little pour there at the end of your tour. Actually, not a little pour, a nice big pour. And boy, and that was a great tour too. The museums out there, high standard over there. So I do recommend it if you're able to put it together. Do it. Even again, you don't have to do golf to enjoy a trip like that. If you drive a car like we did, it is opposite day. Fortunately, there were no incidents. One very brief moment, I was on the wrong side of the road, but I got out of there in a hurry. Only one time that I was in a position where I tried to make a turn and realized I had to stop before I got hit. Because over there, it's a short left and a long right. And once you get used to that, and roundabouts, man. But other than that, all was well. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and I'm 100% in favor of it, and 100% in favor of perhaps going back again some other day. But as you can see, I did miss the kitties and my dog, who can't climb up on my shoulders, nor do I want 70-something pounds on my shoulders. Hi, buddy. Yeah, love you too. But yeah, they're happy we're home, and we're happy we're home, right? Yeah, I guess we are. So anyway, as far as, quickly, the airport and flying experience, well, I'm glad we missed the whole July 4th tragedy. Whatever happened over there, we went up on July 1st, June 30th to July 1st. So we didn't run into any real problems, except there were problems anyway. Delays, New York, we went through JFK. We had a problem. We were late getting out to Dublin. I think we were on time leaving here for New York, but we were late for Dublin because they had a mix-up. No lost bags, though. And then coming back, we were 2 hours late leaving Dublin, which didn't affect us, but cost, can't tell you how many people their connections to where they were having to be rebooked. And we get to New York and we're an hour out from leaving on time. Now, we've been up since 2 o'clock in the morning USA time. It's a 5-hour time difference. And we're an hour away. I mean, we're sitting in an airline lounge, and I'm going, okay, this is great. You know, we'll get home. It's going to be late. It's going to be 11:30 in the morning at night, but we'll be home. You know, it's not too bad. 2-hour delay. So I asked, well, we don't have pilots. Now, to my knowledge, as a relatively frequent flyer, you need those guys or women to fly your darn plane. So when they rebooked us for 10:30, I was fully prepared for cancellation and was already researching what hotels are the airport to spend the night there. But incredibly, they got pilots to show up, and we got home almost exactly 24 hours. In fact, I think it was 24 hours after we woke up in Ireland, we got home in South Florida when we walked into the door. It's tiring, but it doesn't remove any of the pleasantry of the taste of Guinness or Bushmills and all the different wild. By the way, all the meals we had, and we had, nice meals with tablecloths. We had deli meals where I was introduced to the Belfast alligator, an unbelievable sandwich. We had takeaway, as they call it there, or takeout here. We had, planned meals. We had, whatever, buffet breakfast, whatever. Not any of those menus had corned beef and cabbage on it anywhere. I never saw corned beef. Even in the deli where we bought the sandwich, did I see corned beef on there? Corned beef, I don't know when they have it. No idea. Maybe it's only on St. Paddy's Day, but I'm telling you, that's a myth. And did we have potatoes? Yeah, a couple times. Well, actually, now what they do have there everywhere just about is fish and chips, and there's nothing wrong with that. And how is it in this country we still call it fish and chips instead of fish and fries, but every other reference to French fried potatoes is not chips as it is over there? Answer that one for me, would you? Anyway, thanks for watching. Back in business, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Sláinte.